is Chet Nickerson reporting. After 18 hours in the air, Miss Amelia Earhart has set the record as the first person to fly solo over the treacherous Pacific Ocean from Honolulu to Oakland, California.
Wow, what an accomplishment. Have you ever tried setting a record, Smarty Pants? Like setting a jump rope record? Or most times tapping a balloon in the air without it hitting the ground? Or memorizing every crafting recipe in Minecraft? Those are all great goals. Keep at 'em. Amelia Earhart built her career as an aviator on setting big goals, flying her plane longer distances under more difficult circumstances than any pilot before her. Here she is in her own words.
I'm always striving to try something new and demonstrate what's possible, especially when it comes to flight. It's not always easy. On the Atlantic flight, I had ice conditions and storms. On this Pacific flight, I lucked out, with almost no bad weather. I saw the moon and stars most of the night. Of course, on both flights, I was very glad to see land.
Amelia Earhart was piloting aircraft and setting world records in the 1920s and 1930s. But who was this daring lady? How was she able to do what nobody had ever done before? And how'd she wind up as one of the greatest mysteries of all time? It's time for another whiff of science and history on
Who smarted? Who's smarted? Who's smart? Is it you? Is it me? Is it science or history? Listen up, everyone. We make smarting lots of fun on Who Smarted.
Amelia was born in 1887 in Atchison, Kansas. She was just 6 years old when the Wright brothers tested the first successful airplane in 1903. But Amelia didn't actually see an airplane until she was 10.
I went to the state fair, and there was this thing of rusty wire and wood, a plane. But it looked not at all interesting. Planes were brand new, and not at all fancy or comfortable.
But years later, when Amelia attended a stunt flying exhibition, she saw what these flying machines were capable of.
Ooh, now I'm interested. When I was 23 years old, I finally went in a plane for the first time. By the time I'd gotten 200 feet off the ground, I knew I had to fly.
Amelia took her first flying lesson at the age of 24. 6 months later, she had saved up enough money to buy her own two-seater biplane.
A biplane has two wings, one stacked above the other, and a propeller on the nose. They aren't flown very much anymore. Mine was bright yellow, so I named it the Canary.
Amelia had lots of contemporaries, other pilots who were also racing to set records.
There was Charles Lindbergh, a.k.a. Lucky Lindy, Slim, Ned, the Lone Eagle, Flapper McGee.
Hey, no one calls me Flapper. You made that one up.
A man of many nicknames and a pilot of many accolades, Lindbergh became the first pilot to cross the Atlantic, flying a solo non-stop flight from New York to Paris.
And I became the second pilot and first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Strong winds, icy conditions, and mechanical problems made the flight difficult, requiring quick thinking, coordination, speed, and willpower.
Boy, is this Amelia Earhart aces or what? Her skill as a navigator is only matched by her bravery as she risks her life to make history. What a gal! What a pilot!
Because of engine troubles, I had to land in a pasture in Northern Ireland. After scaring away every cow in the field, I pulled up to a farmer's backyard.
Who does you think yous are in your fancy flying machine? Tearing up my pasture and scaring away my cows? What is this world coming to?
A progressive world, that's what. A lot of people, mostly men, were unsupportive of females in flight. But Amelia proves her piloting prowess, becoming the first woman to reach 14,000 feet, the first woman to fly across the United States, the first woman to cross the Atlantic, and the first woman to cross the Atlantic solo, during which she established new records for speed. She was recognized for her valor with 2 medals, the Cross of the French Legion of Honor and the Distinguished Flying Cross.
There weren't as many records set by women in those days, but I didn't intend to be the only one receiving notoriety. In 1920, I started the 99s, an organization of female pilots with 99 charter members.
The 99s is a crackerjack organization. Its membership are dedicated to mutual support, the advancement of aviation, and maintaining historical records of women in aviation. Licensed pilots and even student pilots can still join today.
In 1933, I founded another venture, a clothing line for the woman who lives actively. I called it Amelia Fashions.
Amelia was not happy with the standard apparel designed for flying, nor the typical clothing considered acceptable for women.
If I'm going to sit in the cockpit of a plane for 18 hours, I intend to be comfortable. For that matter, I'd like to be comfortable sitting on my own couch, too.
Earhart's clothing line included wrinkle-free dresses, skirts, pants, and outerwear. Some of it was made from parachute material and the fabrics used to cover airplane wings at the time.
Whoa.
The clothes may have been comfortable, but the planes were not. Early aircraft had no heat or air conditioning, nor were they pressurized, and it wasn't easy to breathe in high altitudes.
Hey, adventure first.
Amelia didn't just talk the talk, she flew the flights, crossing the Pacific in the first ever successful solo flight from Hawaii to California, an even greater distance than the Atlantic crossing. And later, she'd complete the first successful solo flight from Los Angeles to Mexico City.
That Miss Earhart, what will she accomplish next? No, seriously, what's next? Where are you setting your sights, Amelia?
I'm gonna fly around the world.
It's June 1st, 1937. In mere moments, aviation's leading lady, Amelia Earhart, will take off on a historic flight round the world. If she completes it, she will become the first woman to circumnavigate the globe by plane.
But Amelia's around-the-world trip didn't go as planned. Instead of ending up in the record books with a history-making flight, Amelia Earhart would end up in the history books as one of the greatest mysteries of all time. That story, right after this quick break. Now back to Who Smarted.
We're here on the runway in sunny Miami, where Amelia Earhart's twin-engine Lockheed Electra 10E sits poised to make history. Oh, there's Miss Earhart's navigator, Fred Noonan, an intrepid adventurer and stellar navigator in his own right.
Joining Amelia on this adventure was Fred Noonan, a sea captain and flight navigator who charted many routes across the Pacific Ocean in the 1930s. In fact, he helped pioneer trans-Pacific commercial airline service with Pan American Airlines. Have you ever visited Hawaii? Fred Noonan helped make that possible.
And now, here's the woman of the hour, high-flying Amelia Earhart. She's climbing into the cockpit, and she gives a wave to the crowd as she starts the engine.
Amelia had tried an around-the-world journey once before. In March 1937, she took off from Hawaii with co-pilot Paul Mantz. However, they ran into equipment failures and had to cut their trip short. Fortunately, they were able to land safely. That did not deter Amelia in the least. She got a new plane, a new navigator, and took off again.
And they're off on the first leg of a grueling 29,000-mile journey around the world.
Amelia and Noonan headed east, making several refueling stops before landing in Lae, New Guinea, on June 29th, after 28 days of flying.
Back in the U.S., crowds have gathered to celebrate the successful return of Amelia Earhart, Queen of the Skies.
Only Earhart and Noonan would never return. With 22,000 miles of their journey completed, they only had 7,000 miles left to travel. However, this record-setting flight would go on to become the greatest mystery of the 20th century.
July 2nd, 1937, soaring towards a new record, Amelia Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan take off from New Guinea, headed for one of the last stops on their journey, Howland Island.
Howland Island was a speck of land in the middle of the Pacific, located midway between New Guinea and Hawaii. It was a 2,600-mile journey to Howland, roughly the same distance as crossing the United States. But the trip proved difficult.
Itasca, this is Earhart. Just reached altitude after leaving Leia. Cloudy weather. Cloudy.
Earhart and Noonan flew into overcast skies with sporadic rain showers. They communicated with the Coast Guard ship Itasca, trying to maintain their navigational bearings. The Itasca sent frequent radio transmissions, but it seemed Earhart couldn't hear them. Her own transmissions to the ship were faint and difficult to discern.
We must be on you, but we cannot see you. Fuel is running low. Been unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet.
Inaccurate maps, cloudy skies, and a tiny target made navigating especially difficult for Noonan. Howland Island is only 1.5 miles long and 0.5 mile wide. So small that you and a friend could see each other waving from opposite sides of the island.
We are circling, but cannot see island. Cannot hear you. We are now running north and south.
Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan never landed on Howland Island. In fact, they were never heard from again.
Tragedy over the Pacific. Instead of celebrating Amelia Earhart's greatest achievement, the world waits anxiously as Earhart's plane failed to reach Howland Island. President Franklin D. Roosevelt has personally authorized a massive 2-week search. U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Navy, and British ships are in the area. But it's not looking good.
This pair of brave aviators were ultimately declared lost. It was a mysterious finale to an amazing aviation career. But even now, no conclusive evidence has been found to explain exactly what happened to Amelia and Fred. Some civilians on the U.S. mainland believed they picked up distress calls on their family's radio consoles.
Water's knee-deep. Let me out. We have taken in water. Can't hold on much longer.
It's almost certain Amelia's plane went down in the Pacific. But years later, bones, navigational equipment, and shoe parts were discovered on nearby Gardner Island.
Whoa.
Some believe Earhart and Noonan were marooned. Others think they were captured by the Japanese military, suspected of being spies. A coral-covered airplane wreck was found submerged off the coast of New Guinea. Could this be their plane? Still others theorize Earhart survived and lived the rest of her life under an assumed identity. Whatever the answer, Earhart soared over land and sea, winning our hearts, igniting our imaginations, setting world records, and inspiring future aviation adventurers. A big shout out to our awesome fan, Serenity, in St. Louis, Missouri. Thanks so much for listening to Who Smarted. This episode, Amelia Earhart, was written by Libby Ward and voiced by Adam Tex Davis, Charlotte Cohn, Jason Williams, Max Kamaski, and Jerry Colbert. Technical direction and sound design by Josh Hahn. Who Smarted is recorded and mixed at the Relic Room Studios. Our associate producer is Max Kamaski. The theme song is by Brian Suarez, with lyrics written and performed by Adam Tex Davis. Who Smarted was created and produced by Adam Tex Davis and Jerry Colbert. This is an Atomic Entertainment production.